Good evening, traders. This is Krishna Joshi here with 7 Points Capital, and I'm going to bring you today's trader takeaways. Not a very high volume liquid day. The volume on the SPY is not a lot, just 65 million shares today. It is, and also like the action was very stock specific. A few Chinese names that we've been watching over the last week or so, they sold off massive today, double-digit sell-off in most of those. All the four names that we've been watching, which is IQ, Huya, Billy, and Sogo. But other than that, we had earnings on Micron, which is why we were also watching AMD and Intel to go along with it. And not to forget, Intel also had the CEO resign today morning. So apart from that, we didn't really see like the entire market moving. And when we opened, so looking at the SPYs on the daily, we see like 279.50, 280 acting as resistance, and on the way down, which is where we are pretty much trading right now, which is the low end of the range, we've been seeing 273 and 274s kind of holding. So we went through 74 today, pretty much around the close, and then we bounced right back. And we also saw earlier in the week the bounce off the 74s. So these the SPYs moving in a 6-7 point range. Eventually, we see like given the geopolitical news and everything that's been out there, we do expect that it might again test the 280 on the upside and then just trade in this choppy range for a while up until we find another reason, macro news for the markets to go up again. So let's jump into a few names that we were watching. SPYs kind of sold off right off the open, which also triggered a good sell-off in MU, which had earnings last night. So the earnings were pretty good. The stock initially went down, and then the stock had a good, the guidance came out pretty strong. So the stock just rallied all the way back up from like 57, 58 area to all the way back to 61, 62 after hours, and also that's where we opened up today morning. So we opened in the high 60s, in the high 61s, and we saw like resistance at 61.75 pre-market, and so this is again MU is trading at pretty much all-time highs. The stock has been really strong. The price target by a lot of brokerage firms has been upwards of 100. Today, midday, one of them came out again with a price target of 108. Over the last few months, we've seen price target of 100 by multiple tier 1 banks. So the stock definitely strong. The earnings pretty much similar, but again with the markets, this is a high beta stock, and we saw a good sell-off in that. So I did have a short right off the open, but I did take it too early. I wasn't really confident about that because the action, so 61.75 held pre-market, and right off the open we went through it. We came down, we saw a massive bar, and when I got short, I felt like this was again going to hold 61 on the way down and make a big push up. So I was really quick on my cover. That could have been a really good trade. So let me pull up my execution for MU. So this was my short right around 61.25, and just as it went through 61, I kind of took it pretty quick on the take. That would have worked out to be a good trade. I could have made much more, a few more hours on that setup. It was more like a hit and run setup, a continuation from the sell-off in SPYs, which triggered a lot of like a massive sell-off in Intel and MU right off the open. It did give a good pullback to sell off again, but again, probably I was coming in long bias, and for some reason I wasn't able to pull the trigger on the short side that well. As you can see, a lot of indecision from my end here. Short cover, testing it out, a few under shares here and there, but not really having a feel for it up until right around the close, where I had a good trade. I saw 60.25s holding, and then I ended up shorting just below 60.20 with a stop in the 60.31. So small risk reward, ended up covering just below 60 on that one. So that ended up being a good trade because the stock wasn't as flashy, as crazy as you could see these wicks in the morning. and at the same time it gave me confidence to go in much bigger than I was doing in the morning. So three times, four times my position in the close, around the close, and at the same time much higher conviction, much more confident and comfortable in the trade, which is why I didn't really mind these trades, because if I'm in a stock, if I'm in a setup and I'm not 100% confident, I might as well just get a feel for it. If I don't like it, I'm just taking it off. That's what I can see, like couple of trades. That's what happened right around these levels. So that was MU, the first stock. Um, Ended up being an okay stock on the day for me. I was trading SBOT. I've been trading these low floats with Stan, and they've been pretty good for me so far. So pre-market, I was looking at it on the long side. We didn't know if it was the backside yet, so I'm looking at SBOT for long setups in the morning. So I ended up buying 235s and just kept adding through 240, and I had a decent position. So pre-market, I took off a little bit around the 252, 255 area, added back in the mid 40s, getting out again 255. This is all of this again pre-market, and so my idea was to have a feel for the stock, what it wants to do, see if it's ready for the backside to short once the big massive push is done. And what I could have done differently was definitely have some shares from the pre-market, because I had a decent entry price around the 245. So instead of taking the 257s, 260s, I could have held on to that, because we saw a massive push right off the open to 325 in the morning. So this could have worked out to be a bigger trade. This is a setup that I'm trying to add. Low floats, not my area of expertise, but again, we've been coming in pre-market. We've got a new guy who's training in with us. Stan's been working with him, and we've been working together as a team, adding these low float setups. And given that, I've been trying to add those into my playbook and eventually building position, gaining confidence in those. So once we thought that the stock might be ready for the backside, which is around 280, 281, ended up getting short. Uh, the first feel for it was I think I bought the 278, 79, and then quickly sold 82, and then started getting short once I saw what the tape was really doing. So I had a good trade, had a quick cover for half of my position, and I felt like it could still go on the downside. So I ended up re-adding uh, 267s and then covering into the 260s for most of it. Just a small position again, short at 260, 259, and then a quick cover around 248. So that was pretty much it. This was the major part of this was much bigger position, probably 4 or 5x of what I had in the morning on the long side. So this ended up being a good trade. Even though I took half early, I ended up adding that, took in the covered most of it in the 60s, added 60 and took most of it below below the 50s, right around the 47s, 48s, and just a nothing kind of trade right around the end. Was just getting a feel for what the stock wanted to do. So that was SBOT, one of the low float names that was moving on the day. And another good trade for me was Twitter today. Twitter on the daily, as you can see, let me show you the daily on Twitter. Yeah, you can see definitely extended. You can see a nice hammer on the nice doji right into the 47.50, 48 area, and even through the 46s. So today I was coming in the morning, I was expecting that if Twitter gaps up and sells and sets up on the short side, that's what I wanted to do. And guess what? It had a massive range up, and right off the open, I'm seeing Snapchat and Twitter. They're up a couple of percentage both. So I feel like no, I don't see the relative weakness that I wanted to see. So I'm gonna leave it alone for a bit. And it had a massive sell-off right off the open. So it sold off almost 3 points, touched pretty much 46.90 and sold off to 44.20. A big miss right off the open, but then the trade was to let it stabilize, let it pull back, let it do its thing, and then get on the short side once I see like a more comfortable risk reward setup. So right around 215, this was a good setup for me. These kind of setups have been working out for me in the high price names. So I've been doing this with MU, Twitter. Um, we had JD this early week. We had JD, which was moving in a pretty similar action. So a lot of these stocks that keep wedging midday and give a breakout on the downside once the market tops out, they really give nice risk reward setups. So I ended up shorting Twitter right around just below the 45.50. I'm not risking a lot on the trade. I'm risking 57s and 56 for half and 61 for the other half, and ended up having a nice cover on it. It does go up, and then I ended up taking, so I ended up shorting it again, and then it just shook me out on this wick. So the moment it came down, I just ended up covering it, which could have ended up being a good trade as well. Um, what I didn't like about this was it did not really pull back a lot to get short around my previous entry. So not a big confidence setup, but this is something that I like to short in the top 10 percentile of the range. So it's trading pretty much at the high point of the range. I'm not really shorting the bottoms, and it gives a good clear risk reward setup. So these were some of the trades that we were looking at today on the desk. MU definitely active. Starbucks, that's on my watch list for the next few days. So is Oracle. And these are some of the trades that are working out so well. AMD has been selling off and setting up really well. So overall, it's been a good day, slow day, but a lot of singles today. No big home runs for me personally. And we'll continue watching the Chinese IPO names, and let's see what they have in place for us over the next few days. Anyways, thanks again for watching, guys. Feel free to like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and share it with the Twitter community. And let us know what you think about the videos. Let us know what you want to see more of, and we'll jump into those kind of setups. Thanks again for watching, guys. And this is Krishna Joshi.